Hey everyone, so this week we are going to actually move from just getting some stuff on the page, like divs and data and things like that, to actually creating a visualization and getting that up on the page. To do this, we're going to use the Google Visualization Library as a starting point. This is actually a really nice, really versatile library. If any of you were at Tau last week, I don't think any of you were, we went over it there. The thing that's really great about the Google Visualization Library is that it's pretty quick to use. They have a lot of different visualizations. You can see some of them listed down the side here. And also, they're highly configurable, which means that we can change the look and feel of them pretty robustly. And the nice thing is that even though there are lots of different kinds of visualizations, the way that you do that customization is pretty consistent across all of the types of visualizations they have, which means that you don't have to go learning lots of little different details in order to customize, say, a bar chart over a line chart, for example. Now, very often they have these, and we're going to look at the line chart example. We're going to use some of the unemployment data that we looked at last week very briefly in sort of the API example. And they have code examples here. One thing I want to point out is that the way that they show this is with the data embedded in the page. And as we've talked about, first of all, I guess it's, yeah, you can't really see that, but they do it with the data embedded in the page, which is convenient in some respects, but as we've discussed in class, it's also problematic. If we had a large volume of data, it would be hazardous at best. We wouldn't to keep it in our HTML file. We do want to have this kind of like separation of functionality going on. So we will be using this library, but we're going to be using it in a slightly different way. We're going to load the library, right? So this is very similar to the way that for jQuery, we use jQuery for getting to that document.ready, document.ready event, and also because it's, lets us construct things like divs much more easily than doing it in raw JavaScript. So likewise, constructing an interactive visualization in JavaScript by ourselves would be incredibly time consuming and require a lot of coding. Google has gone ahead and done a lot of the work for us, and basically all we need to do is provide them with the data that we want to use and a few extra elements in order for them to make this visualization. So we're going to start by setting up an HTML file. We're going to pull our various libraries into it, and then we're going to load up some data, some external data, and use that as our data source for moving forward. So first things first, of course, we always want to create ourselves a place to keep this. So I'm going to call this Google Viz X. Let me get these other guys out of the way here. And of course, pop open Aptana and get myself going with a new HTML file. So you'll see we'll follow this process obviously pretty much every week. As you guys move into, if you start to experiment with new libraries, we'll move on from this a little bit. Example and line chart below. Okay, so here we go. This is all familiar to you all, I'm sure. Google this example. Google. Now, actually, I can be better than that, right? I'm going to name this index.html. And now, of course, I'm going to create a JavaScript file. So my JavaScript file is basically just a blank file. I'm going to save this. I don't have anything to put in here yet, but I'm going to save it. Come on. Right, save it to the local file system, and I'll call this scripts.js. Save it in the same folder. And so now we want to bring in our libraries. So as we discussed, bringing in our libraries in order is important. And so the very first library that I'm going to bring in actually is my Google Visualization Library. And the way that we get access to that is very similar. We can see that there's this script tag here. We can just go ahead and copy that right out of this example. And then, of course, I'm going to have to, and I'm going to comment this. You guys should be commenting these things too, again, so you remember what they are. So Google Visualization Library. Right, and next up we're going to have jQuery, because again, we want to make sure that we load all of our libraries before we load our own scripts. Otherwise, those libraries might not be there. If we try to ask for their functions when we haven't included them yet, our script is going to get confused and sad. So we'll say jQuery library here. And I'm going to have to look up the jQuery library. jQuery Google CDN. Again, CDN stands for Content Distribution Network or Delivery Network, I think it is. Basically, it's a faster way to get it, and it gets kept up for us. So here we go, jQuery. I'm going to grab this guy right out of here. I do have to add this, this HTTP to it, which is kind of annoying, but it's all right, not too bad. And then, of course, I have my script, my custom scripts. Okay, and so, of course, for that, I need to do script. Source is going to be, whoops, scripts.js, and my type is going to be text JavaScript. Right, and we close the script tag, and we'll go ahead and test this out by throwing a console log statement. JS loaded, just in there to make sure that we didn't have any errors, just setting up those libraries. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and open this guy up and open up this in Firefox and check the console. Hey, I said, oh, I have to say enable. Enable, please do it. Okay, great. So good starting point. And now, of course, so what are the steps going to be to our program? So we're going to come back to our file here, and we're going to write this out. We should all be practicing this, right? So what are the steps that we need to go through here? So let's go ahead and get some comments going. So I'm going to say project steps. 1, check that the document, I'm just going to say set up document ready, right? So we're really always going to do that. So set up document ready. Then we're going to load our Google visualization library, load the Google Charts package. So what's happened is that we have that include that we did on our HTML page is sort of a preparatory step. It makes us able to load Google visualizations, but we haven't actually loaded them at that point. So we actually have a separate set of, or a separate round to do. So we load jQuery, then we load our visualization library. Then when that's loaded, we're going to do what? We're going to load our data, and then we're going to render the chart, and that's pretty much it. And it may seem trivial to you guys, it may seem sort of redundant to write down a 4-step outline, right? But it's actually really helpful. And so we're going to ask that you guys do this on a regular basis. So now I'm going to come to my document ready function, and this is basically just going to be the name of my callback. Okay, so callback is when we were kind of playing that, when we were playing the game last week, where somebody said Chris did an action and then the person called the name of the function. That function that happens when an event occurs is often referred to as a callback, right? It's like, you can think of it like Marco Polo, basically. So in this case, document ready is the Marco, and the function name in here is the Polo. So my Polo function I'm going to call page loaded, right? So wow, I can't type today. And so function page loaded. Page done, right? So again, this is we're just always going to do this. We're always going to check, step by step. Of course, you want to be doing your commits in between these things as you get each thing ready, or as you get each thing accomplished. So let's go ahead. We'll come back to our Firefox. Where are you, Firefox? Here we are. Okay, check the console. Page is loaded. Fantastic. Step number 1 is done. That was pretty easy, right? Okay, so what's the next step? The next step is to load the Google charting package. And this I'm going to sort of give you guys in pre-prep, but it's a variation on what we see in the documentation here. It's not exactly the same, because what we're going to do is we're going to have this function call, so Google load visualization. Okay, so the Google load is the name of the function, right? It's much like document ready, except it's one of Google's functions. So we're going to do this. We want Google load visualization, and we're asking it to load the core charts package. But we're going to do something else. We're going to add another parameter to this, which is going to be our callback function. So the callback function is going to be an argument, right, or a parameter that we pass to this function, right? So we know that Google load is a function because of the round parentheses, and then we have our comma-separated list of parameters to it, and of course we see that one of these is actually what? An object, right? Curly braces means object. So we have one parameter, we have one property of the object is called packages. We're going to give this a second property called callback. Now, remember that we're working with a library in this case, so the what these things are referred to, like the nomenclature that it's specifically callback, is going to be specific to that library, right? So essentially we've looked it up on Google that this is how we send a callback, how we set up a callback for this function, right? So we're doing, again, this is the Marco Polo. So if the Google load is the Marco, the function name that we put in here is going to be the Polo. It's going to be the response. It's going to be what happens when that's loaded. So now I'm going to say Google Viz loaded is going to be the name of my callback function. And of course, I need to define that function as well. Google Viz loaded. Now, let's see how we do here. Console log, whoops, Viz loaded. So if all has gone according to plan, and again, pointing out that I just got this straight off of Google, right? I mean, they designed this library, so they're the ones who have to dictate the way that we interact with it. But let's just see how we do here. I think I saved that. Yes, I did. I can tell because there's no asterisks. Ta-da! That's awesome. Okay, so we're actually in really good shape here. We've done two of our most important steps. We've checked that the page is loaded, and then we've loaded we've loaded our visualization library, and we've checked that that is loaded. And so the third step that we're going to do is, of course, to load our data. So we'll be back in a few minutes with that. We're going to look at loading data and then how we just need to sort of tweak its format so that we can use it with the Google visualization library. All right, see you back here in a minute.